Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm going to be making a post-rotation tier list. These are the, I believe, top 20 most played decks in Japan. They're all represented by one card, obviously. There's a few different aspects to them, which I'll talk about as we get into it, but these are the most played decks in Japan. Not necessarily the best. There are maybe a few decks that are better than some of the low-end decks here, but I think these are definitely the best decks. I think the top 15 decks are definitely contained within this list, and we're going to do S through F ranking. And this is obviously subjective. This is not based. I mean, I've looked at data and stuff to help inform my opinion, but also my thoughts on the decks. I haven't really played with them. I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, obviously, rotation has not happened internationally. It has happened in Japan, and so we've seen tournaments. We saw a major tournament in Japan that was over 5,000 people. It was it's one of the biggest of the year, and so that is useful. And then there's also lots of City League tournaments, so you can see a lot of data for that. If you're actually wondering, you want to see data for yourself, you can just look at that. It's a little awkward to sort through, but it's there, and it's quite nice. But anyways, let's just hop right in. And obviously, I'm not going to be talking about decks that are rotating, that are in standard now. And there are some decks that are standard that aren't necessarily rotating, that are pretty bad post-rotation, like say Miraidon. That deck's not really being played at all in Japan. It's losing a bunch of important pieces. It's losing the Pokemon Vs and then Forest Seal Stone, which obviously goes along with those. But the first deck here is Gardevoir EX, which is still being played in Japan. I think it's the seventh most played deck or something like that in Japan, somewhere around there. It's pretty solid. It's not like amazing, but it is being played despite losing Curlia, which is a pretty massive loss. Curlia is the draw engine of the deck, and it fits right into the deck. So if you want to replace it with some other draw engine, like I think the Dunsparce or Enzoric EX or just whatever, it's as awkward, right? You are now playing the deck differently, right? Gardevoir is still good. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not, because it is good, but it's had to rework itself, and it's not like it's really getting new stuff that's good for it either. Again, Gardevoir is solid. If you just take a look at, say, a random list here, you see that there isn't really an engine. We see Mew-EX, we see Pheasantip-EX, we see Tatsugiri, we see, of course, supporter cards, and then you see, like, Screamtail and Drifloon and Monkey Dories as normal attackers. We see rare candies, and we see just a couple of Curlias, which don't really do anything other than just pre-evolutions, unlike, obviously, Curlia now. And then we see Lily's Clefairy EX. Lily's Clefairy EX is honestly amazing. I was just talking about it, I think in maybe the video I made yesterday. I don't know exactly my upload schedule, but it's really good, allowing you to hit weakness on dragon types, which, if you didn't know, the most played decks are Dragapult EX and Raging Bolt EX in Japan. Dragapult with a bit of a lead, but Gardevoir EX is able to hit those for weakness, which is nice. I'll put it in B tier though. I don't think it's a deck that's super amazing. I'm going to be completely honest. This deck's going to be a bit middle heavy. There's a few decks at the top and a few decks. There's definitely going to be some decks that are pretty bad as well here. But I think Gardevoir is fine. B is not bad. It's pretty good. It's definitely a solid deck, but not amazing either. Losing a substantial card within Curlia. Then we have Dragapult EX. Dragapult EX is going to go in S tier. I'm not really going to talk about this deck too much, but I will talk about it some. Dracloak is a card that's kind of like Curlia in a lot of ways, and so that's really nice to have the stage one that is a draw engine. This deck's been played a lot in Japan and seen a lot of success. Oh, there also are like builds with Gholdengo. Those decks are kind of mashed together a little bit, not that much, but some. And so you have Dragapult EX though, which is an amazing attacker, lots of HP. Again, Liz Clefairy EX is a counter to it. It's not a card that can like go in every deck or anything. I think someone was like, "Oh, it's just like a hard counter to Dragapult." It's not really. You actually trade evenly with it anyways. So it's like, well, no, you trade evenly if they don't have the tool attached, but if they do, then you're trading negatively. But also, Dragapult EX is really good. You have the spread damage and stuff. I was gonna say there's no mana feat, which is true. That doesn't affect Dragapult EX, so I guess it might even make it worse because you can't protect your own bench. There's also there's not that much spread in the game, but anyways, it is nice being able to hit your opponent's bench. If they have, say, Duskull on the bench, you can knock those out or Badoos and get some extra prizes that way. Yeah, Dragapult's really good. It's not really losing much, and yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, not too much to say about it. Raging Bolt EX with TMS Ogerpon EX. There is another build which we'll talk about, but Raging Bolt Ogerpon is really good still. It's I've said this, I'm not a massive fan of the deck. I actually like this build a little more. I like the Noctowls to give you a bit, you get a bit more burst late game if you kind of miss stuff, you don't get stuff exactly right, or you're reliant on just draws. Noctowl can, smooth things out and get you things in the way you want. So I like that. Noctowl is definitely a bit of a change. We don't even see Squawkabilly EX in this list. This is probably, I guess, go first list. And we see different Ogre as well, which you'll kind of see in the list. But anyways, the deck is, in my opinion, still it's very good. It's definitely not in the same tier as Dragapult for me. I'm gonna put it in A tier. It might. It's probably one of two A tier decks if I had to guess. I will be ordering the tiers as well. Might be changing things, but obviously if you just skip to the end, you'll probably miss some stuff, and then you might be confused about stuff as well. But your Raging Bull Dragapult is A tier. I think it's very good. I'd actually probably say that it's like there's not like a massive gap between Dragapult EX, Raging Bull EX, and the tier below. Like the top three tiers, I'd say like this would be like a 1.5 tier. If I was doing that, I'm not, but that's kind of what it would be. But Raging Bull EX is good. It's not at the level of Dragapult to me. It kind of like one-shot everything, which is obviously really good. But looking at these decks, how good is it against these? I mean, it's good. There are some single prize decks. There aren't that many, but there are some. And you don't have a ton of versatility. Walls are certainly floating around. There is the Walls deck. That deck is good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. I think it had the best showing at the Champions League tournament. But yeah, I mean, Reasonable DX is still an amazing attacker. Then we have Aegislash up next. I think Aegislash is pretty bad. I think it's not like the worst Pokemon, and like it's pretty bad. I think it walls off EXs and Vs, but Mimikyu does that on a basic. It doesn't wear HP, but you could put on Luxurious Cape on a Mimikyu, and that's really tanky. I'll talk about that probably a little bit. I don't know. It's been Feraligatr. I've talked about Feraligatr a lot on the channel. I really think it's really cool, and I like it a lot. But Aegislash, I think, is pretty bad, in my opinion. It's not like a completely terrible deck, but I don't really respect it. Just gonna be completely honest. You have Aegislash EX as like a theoretically really strong attacking option. But it's not amazing. I mean, it can be. It's kind of like late game finisher, kind of like Charizard EX or Blood Moon or Archaludon EX. Obviously, those are like really different cards, or they're different. It's not like a great comparison, but it can do some really good stuff late game. And I mean, 220 for 2 is not bad. But also, you're trying to wall, and it's walling is good. I said there was the wall stack. Aegislash is the other wall stack. Played substantially less than like the main wall stall Milotic EX deck, but which I guess I'll talk about right after this, and I'll talk about Feraligatr within that as well. But Aegislash is a really solid Pokemon. At like as a wall, it's worse than Mimikyu though. I think I think it's bad because it's worse than Mimikyu. I don't think it's bad because it's inherently bad, but I think it's bad because, in my opinion, directly outclassed. You do more damage, which is cool. You can Luxurious Cape your Aegislash, and that's like super hard to knock out, I guess. But like, so is Luxurious Cape Mimikyu. It's basic. You don't need to get a stage 2 into play. So yeah, I'm gonna put this one. I'm gonna put in F tier. I think this deck's bad. I don't think you should play it. I'm just gonna say that again. Not bad inherently, but bad because it's outclassed by other Pokemon, by like a basic Pokemon you can chuck into like Gardevoir EX or something. And then we have the Wall Stall deck, the Milotic EX deck, which, as I said, had the best performance, or arguably the best performance at the Champions League tournament. It's good. It's a deck that I think is a little better than I was giving it credit for. I thought it was a bit of like a meta call, which, I mean, meta call decks are good, but those are decks that, will kind of fall off over time. I still kind of think that Milotic EX walls Terra Pokemon, which is Dragapult EX, as well as Charizard EX. I guess those are the main ones. Though there are some other Terras on this list that are certainly played, and most notably Feraligatr EX and Flareon EX are played a bunch, or a good amount. And then you have Giraffe EX. Oh, this is also a Terra. And the Teal Ogre. There are some different Terras that are played in the game, but the main attackers are Dragapult EX, then also Charizard EX. And then you have Giraffe EX to wall off Raging Bull EX. And again, those are the two most played decks in the game. So it's directly countering those, but you do have Monkey Dory and Corn Master Ogre EX to like, and your attacks are like fine. They're certainly not super strong, but they're like passable. So you can kind of get by with those. Milotic EX is as a main attacker, it's solid. It puts him to sleep, which is disruptive. I don't think this deck's super good. I think it's okay. I'll put it in B tier. I'll actually put it above Gardevoir EX. I think Gardevoir EX is fine, like good, but not amazing. I'll put it in B tier. It's not a deck that I think is amazing. I'm someone who plays I play decks with, I tend to include a few more text than average. Sorry, tend not to really have as big issues with the wall decks as other people. And so that's like different. But that means I think they're a little worse. And this is just walls. This is like a deck where if you're not walling them, you're gonna lose. Theoretically, you have damage output that's like okay, and you have healing, and that could beat some like random deck, but it's probably not. Like if your opponent pulls out Feraligatr. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess Ogerpon Wall is Feraligatr. I think, of course, Master Ogerpon X is amazing. And I think Mimikyu is amazing. Not in this list, but they're both basic walls. Obviously, I was just saying Aegislash. I think it's really bad because it's a stage 2 wall compared to Mimikyu being a basic wall. I really like basic walls. And then you have stage 1 walls, which your opponent could knock out before you get to the stage 1. Though it's hard with Team Evolution, and it's not a walling attack, it's a walling ability. So that will trigger it, and it will be like live as soon as it's evolved, which means that technically, like, there might not be a turn which you could counter it, but regardless, it's fine. That's what I'm saying. It's not terrible. I've heard some people say that it's just going to completely fall off, and I'm sure that's not going to be the case. It's going to be played. I'm pretty confident it'll be within the top 15 at least. I'm pretty sure it'll be within the top 10. Though probably somewhere near like the bottom half of that, somewhere in the bottom half of that. Then we have Feraligatr. Feraligatr I've talked about a lot. This did win the tournament with Milotic EX. I think that is a meta call, playing Milotic EX within Feraligatr. I think the deck's the walling aspect, the hit and run aspect is okay. I think the trapping aspect with Big Bite on Totodile is really good. And then Torrential Heart, Giant Wave, just doing 280 for 2 in stage 2. Single Prizer is quite good. And Luxurious Cape Mimikyu again, it's really good. You have some different options, and they're solid. Monkey Dory, in my opinion, is not that good in the deck. Like, it's theoretically good once it gets going, but it doesn't really get going. The deck has legitimate and really serious consistency issues as well. I do need to point that one out. It's not like you'll never get set up, but it's pretty sketchy. You'll kind of be relying on sitting behind a wall, or in this list we just see one Mimikyu, we see a Badoo, so some disruptive aspect in the early game, and then coming back, which you're a single prize Pokemon, so you can do. I mean, it's doable, but yeah, the deck's good in my opinion. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I really like the deck. You have I don't necessarily love the build. I think that you have really strong attacking options within the Feraligatr line, though. Notably, I think Crocodile is pretty mediocre. I think Feraligatr is good, and I think Totodile is also pretty useful. And I've compared Rakdos to Snorlax, and I've also compared Totodile to Snorlax, because Snorlax is the Pokemon that is, it's one of the biggest losses to rotation, to be honest. And it's a single prize Pokemon. It's really infamous. Totodile is closer to then Maractus. Maractus is more of like a setup, buy some time style card. Totodile is a card to theoretically win you the game with its attack. It does less damage, which is better. And I think we'll have a more similar style to that. It's kind of like it's more similar to Mawile and Master Ogerpon EX being an attack rather than an ability, but still, Totodile is, I think, a really good stall or like trapping card. And then we have Charizard EX, though. There's not really too much to say about Charizard EX. I think this is an A tier deck. I think it's right here. It's fine. I mean, it's losing some stuff, I guess, but it's still good. I mean, you have your Pidgeot EX, you have different things. I don't know exactly how people are playing Charizard EX. I don't think it's like super different. Obviously, no Rotom Bees or anything like that in the deck, but I was gonna click on this list that came first place, but plays Terapagos. That's not crazy. I guess actually probably a lot of them are playing Terapagos EX. We see this one just plays Pidgeot EX, and we see two Morty's Conviction, and we still see 4 Arven and only 2 tools. I've always like kind of complained about that, but regardless, you see Dusknoir, Pidgeot EX, Charizard EX, and you see Pheasant Dip EX as well, and some different things going on here. But then Noctowl builds are playing Trapghost EX, and you're kind of getting off the ground using this and not necessarily playing Pidgeot EX, and have Trapghost EX as an attacking option. and just a bit of a different flow there, but it's still good. Not too much to say about Charizard EX other than it's still a very good card. Then we have Gholdengo EX, and I always lump it in with Sterilage EX. Gholdengo EX can do really big damage. Laventia, I believe, is the stadium, which essentially boosts your damage throughout the course of the game, which is nice, or boosts your consistency. Um, I'm not a massive fan of this deck, but I think it's good. I'll put it in B tier here. And Cerealedge EX I think is like weaker. You can do big damage. It's nothing too crazy going on with this deck, to be honest. I'll just put it in C tier. Then we have the single prize decks. We talked about Feraligatr, and we also talked about Aegislash. But there's what I've called the Badoo box deck, which plays. Who knows what this deck plays? To be honest, I don't really know how to categorize this deck. I've seen or categorize a few different decks which play Badoo, and Badoo is like one of the main Pokemon. You see this within some burn-based decks. A lot of them are like Froslass-based decks as well. They're kind of hard to find. Badoo's obviously played a lot. This deck I'll pull this one up, I guess. It plays a Spathra EX and Maractus and only 2 Badoos, but it's okay. There's some different builds. I think it's not super good. It's a little sketchy. Froslass decks are really sketchy, to be honest. They're not super great. I'm gonna put this deck in D tier. It's not very good. Oh, it's just okay. I think there's some cool stuff. Badoo's obviously a really good Pokemon. It's not broken, but it's quite good. Kind of relying on it to lock down your opponent and stop them from doing what they need to do is something you can kind of do. You can't always do it, but you can kind of do it. Then we have Festival Lead. Festival Lead, I think, was the last deck out of the 20. I wanted to make it even 20. This deck's pretty bad. I'm actually going to move Aegislash up, I think, a tier. I feel like this makes a bit more sense. Festival Lead, in my opinion, is pretty bad. It's funny. If you haven't played it, I'd recommend you. It's the what's that Pokemon? The Diplin? Yeah, the Diplin. I'd recommend you try it out at some point. Well, it's in standard. It's going to be in standard for a little while longer, certainly. But I'd recommend you try it out at some point. It's fine. Someone was saying grass. This is a really good time for grass. It's an okay time for grass. I don't remember what the decks they said you want to target. I remember that one of them was Charizard. I think one of them was Hydreigon, which isn't that good. Oh, and it might have been the Synth. Much cards that aren't out yet as well. But anyways, Diplin's, it's a grass type. It's cool. It's fun. Is it good? It's not great. I'm not gonna sit here and say that, but it's kind of fun. Then we have Slowking. Slowking is really interesting. This is one of the decks that I really am not so sure about. I'm going to be completely honest. Oh, that's what is this card? So Slowking, copies attacks, it copies a few different ones. It's a deck that's been solid in Japan. And definitely one that I think is it's cool. You have the Kyurem. This is the way to play Kyurem. You're not using Regidrago V-Star. So in some ways, this is the new Regidrago V-Star. I would say the closer deck is the N stack to me. But you have some similarities here, and you have Zadu. Zadu's fine. Zadu's an engine. I don't know what people's thoughts are. I feel like a lot of people think it's not super good. It's fine. It has inconsistencies, but it's good when it works. It's actually really good when it works. And then you have different attacking options. You have Conkeldurr, Regigigas, and Annihilate to take big knockouts, which are fine. I want to say there's some new card. I think it's some Zero, or it's not going to come out for a little while, but that's a nice little addition there. The deck's fine in my opinion. I don't have a good opinion on this deck, to be honest. I think I'm going to put it in C tier. It's really good targeting your opponent's bench, but if there's a bunch of tears, it's not doing anything. I think it has consistency issues. I could see it in B tier, or C tier. I think I'll put it in. No, I'll put it in B tier at the tail end of it. It's fine. It's a deck that I'm really excited to mess around with. Manaphy really hurts it, so I don't want to play it on the ladder because I don't think that'll go very well, or it'll be a very good representation of what it's actually going to be like. But the deck's fine. It's pretty solid. Flareon EX is pretty whatever. This is the deck that I think people have. It's probably the most slept on deck. I mean, it's not super good, but it's the deck that people are not caring about at all. It's not very interesting, to be honest. It's not super strong. I'll put it right next to Cerealedge EX here with the Fire Terras. Is it good? It's not super great. It's okay. You can do solid damage. There's some interesting versatility options you have. It's fine. I think there are like it's a deck that can like Psychic, like Sylveon EX or something. I don't really know. It's fine. I mean, you have lots of different options. Obviously, Flareon is in one of the evolutions, and the evolutions are interesting and solid. They're not amazing, but they're all right. Um, and oh, it was played in the Champions League, yeah. So we got a list here. This one does not play Sylveon. Sid, I think some do that I was seeing. Just a few, yeah. We can see a handful, and they're doing well as well. Playing this plus the Clefairy EX to target those Dragon decks, but then you see for Giraffe EX, Wellspring Master Gardevoir EX to see all sorts of different things. I think the deck's fine. So played it in and this is interesting. I when I do these videos, I sometimes stumble upon interesting decks. I don't know if I'll be playing someone. Seems kind of cool, but anyways, yeah, Flareon's not super good. Archaludon EX is pretty good. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think it's the top B tier deck to me. It has lots of HP. You have the Hop stuff, which I think this is the best way to play Hop. Hop by itself is not super great. I'll put it in the bottom of C tier. It's not terrible. I'll put it in the middle here. But the Hop stuff is solid. Archaludon allows it to actually kind of work much better and more consistently. Metang gives you more, I guess, longevity throughout the course of the game. The game will go longer. Or I don't know. I mean, you kind of want the game to go longer so you can get more energies and more consistently. Archaludon guarantees it. You are losing some stuff to get energies in the discard specifically, though. But Archaludon's still a good Pokemon. I think this is a really solid deck post-rotation. A Dragon EX, in my opinion, is pretty bad. Would not recommend. I'll put it in D tier. These decks are not good decks in D tier. And then Mamoswine. I think Mamoswine's also a D tier deck to me. It's a deck that, has good HP. So Hydreigion's low because it's like really hard to set up, and inconsistent. And it's also losing consistency pieces, as is every deck with the rotation. But I think losing any amount of consistency is gonna be like it can't do anything. Mamoswine EX is a card that has a lot of consistency issues as well, needing a bunch of stage 2s, and Mamoswine EX's ability is only gonna get it so far. Its upside's good, but not like absolutely insane, and it's hard to get set up. Not very versatile. Yeah, it's a deck that's a fan favorite, but it's kind of whatever. Like in terms of like all the decks, it's like it's not a deck that I'd recommend you play. I mean, if you want to play it, but it's not super strong. Then there's the Iono stuff. There's actually two builds. Well, I don't know. There's like the regular Iono's deck, and then there's Iono with Raging Bolt, which is more way more played and better. It's fine. I mean, it's not very good. I'm gonna put this one in D tier as well. I'm gonna put it here, I guess. The D tier decks are pretty, don't read too much into the ordering of these. I'd say the ordering matters for S and A and B and maybe C as well. Then also don't play this deck realistically. Just play with Archaludon. But then Enzor EX or the N stack. This deck's fine. I think it's a C tier deck as well. I think it's the best C or no, I think it's the second best C tier deck. It's fine. No, it's the best. I'll put it here. This is put in the top 10. I don't really care that. Oh, it's nope, it's not. But it's fine. I mean, it's like you have different attack options. It's kind of cool. It's solid, and Starmantan's much better than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be kind of mediocre to kind of bad. It's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's solid. Yeah, and Ensec will probably get a breakdown at some point. I mean, I'm certainly going to play it on the channel. But yeah, it's cool. Nothing amazing. Then the Lily's box basic Ogerpon deck thing, which is like this and some. This only plays one Lily Clefairy EX, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. This deck is good, I think. I think it's an B tier deck. I think it might be I want to put it in A tier, to be honest. I think it's good. This is not where it's gonna end up. It'll be higher than this. It's good. It's weird. Lily's Clefairy EX, by the way, is probably the best card from the set, but it's like used in lots of different ways. And I made a video talking about it. But it's good. Which, yeah, you can see the deck here. The Knocked Out Terra box is what it's called, with Ogerpons and Liz Clefairy EX and a bunch of different things going on here. That I've represented with the Liz Clefairy EX, but it's not one representative. To me, Knocked Out isn't the clear representative, but you could say it is. So I think this deck is gonna go in. I'm gonna put in A tier, to be honest. I think it's really cool. This is definitely, I mean, it's a subjective list anyway, but this is a deck I really like. I think the most the decks I'm most excited for are the Feraligatr deck, the Lilies deck, and then also I guess the Ends deck, or the basic box deck, and then I guess the Ends deck as well. But and Hops, they're cool, but it's these two I think. Really cool decks. But anyways, tell me down below in the comments if you changed anything in this list, and if there are any decks that I didn't rank that you actually want me to if you want my opinions on, I can actually just comment that down below. Um, I'll probably say they're bad. I'm just gonna be completely honest. They'll probably land in like D or F tier if it's not on this list or it's grouped in with one of these. I tried to get all the decks I thought were good and worth mentioning. But anyways, I hope you enjoy. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.